Welcome back. We're all back in lockdown now, so it's a little bit depressing, but to lighten the mood, today we're going to make some donuts. Everyone loves a good donut, so start off with the dough. We've got 500 grams of baker's flour, or plain flour, whatever you like. It's nice and simple. It's basically your sweet white dough with a few little extras in there. So we've got 500 grams of flour. Next we're going to go in with salt. So we've got 2% on your 500 grams of flour, that's 10 grams. That goes in. Keep your yeast away from your salt. Yeast and salt don't like each other, so keep it on the other side of the mix bowl if you can. It's not as important with dried yeast, but anyway, so dried yeast on flour, 5%, 25 grams. Keep that away from your salt. Bread improver, we're going in at 1%, so that's 5 grams. Make sure we get it all in there. Sugar, we're going to go in at 8%, so 40 grams. And then we're going to go in with butter. We're going to put this in at 30%, so 150 grams of butter. If we can get it out of the bowl. I've just melted this too a bit in the microwave, just because, again, Melbourne's very cold and it's going to mix through a lot nicer if you melt it a bit, because yeah, it's going to be lumpy and stuff. So just put it in the microwave for like 10-15 seconds, just soften it up and then chuck it straight in. Alright, then we're going to go in with the water. Now normally we go in, for 500 grams, normally I put about 400 mils, but I'm going to back the water off just a little bit because of the butter. So I'm going to go in with 350 just to start with. Again, water's always up and down depending on the flour quality. So we'll go in with 350, have a look. If we need to add a little bit more, we will. If it's a touch wet, we'll add a little bit more flour. It's pretty easy. So we'll chuck that in. And then we're going to put just probably a cap full of vanilla essence in, just to give it that nice little bit of flavour. Again, if you want to put more, you can. If you want to leave it out, you can. It's up to you. You know what? I'm going to go in with 2 because I like the taste of it. So we'll chuck that in. Now I'm going to mix him up, and I'll just show you at the end just the development of it. So again, just start it on slow till you work out how much water you need, and then again, like I said, add some flour or water depending on your consistency you go. Right, I'll see you back in a minute, and we'll have a look and see how it mixes up. Oh, hey there. Right, so we're ready to go. That's been mixing. Oh, first of all, like I said, about 350 mils of water. It's probably closer to 300 mils of water. Because of that butter there, I've had to add a little bit of flour, but this has been mixing for about 5 minutes. Here, have a look at this. This is what you're after, right? Stretch that out. This will tell you when it's ready. You can almost see through that before it breaks. That tells you that the gluten's developed and it's ready to go. This feels really good. It's nice and soft. It's going to be a nice soft buttery dough. So I've got a board floured here. I'm just going to grab my scales out. A little baking tool here. This is take a bit of flour. Now we're just going to scale them off. Again, personal preference, however big you want them. I reckon we'll go for, about 80 grams is probably a good size for a donut. So we'll go like that. Then we're going to scale all them off, same size at 80 grams. Right, so now come in here and I'll show you this. Get rid of your flour. I'll cut all the rest of that off in a minute. Start off with you want to get your donuts to be as tight as possible. So we're going to round them up and get them as tight as possible, so they prove up evenly and the gas gets trapped inside. So start off with your 2 little, you can do 1 at a time if you like, but I'll start with 2. All right, so you start with your 2 little pieces. Just start bringing the ends in till you can feel it starting to get sort of a little bit tighter. So you just keep pulling the top bits in. And then what we're going to do, using this part of your hand, not your fingers, your fingers are only really there to hold it into place. Using this part of your hand, you're going to kind of push and then bring it back in and around on itself. So you're pushing, it's almost this part of your hand. So you're pushing down and it's coming back and rolling in. So then as you speed it up, And your fingers aren't doing anything, they're just holding it in place. So that's actually the ball of my hand. Then you can see, this is what you want. So it's nice and tight, it springs back really easy. And again, the same with this one. So you're pushing with this part of your hand, and just, you can, if I slow it down, you can actually walk it along and do it this way too. You push, 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 push. And you can see you're just sort of pushing that bottom piece along. So you can kind of walk it along the bench if you want to do it that way as well. And you can see it just starts to get tighter, but once you get a bit quicker and a bit more confident with it, you can see that's what we're after. Nice little balls, and the bottom's all nice and sealed up. You don't want your seam at the side or it's going to split open. So that's all we're after. And then we're going to stick him on a floured tray like so. Give it a little bit of space because these are going to double in size before we put them in the deep fryer. So I'll do this with the rest of the dough, and then we'll let them sit. Preferably cover it so you don't get a, if you let the air get to it, you're going to get a skin on top of it, and then they're going to be dry and crusty and nasty on top. So we'll line them all up there, and we'll cover them till they prove up. That'll stop them getting that skin on top. Because they've got a lot of butter in them, they're not going to skin up too bad, but we'll just prevent that by putting the cover on. All right, I'll round the rest of these up, and then I'll come back and show you the size before we put them in the fryer. Okay, welcome back. So just one quick note, like I said before, cover it with a tea towel. A better way to prove them and a quicker way to prove them without them sticking, without them getting a skin on it, just plonk your trays in the oven, take a small dish. We've just been using a bread tin. Boil the kettle, pour some water in it, just sort of half fill it, and stick it underneath your trays. This is going to create a little bit of steam. Obviously your oven's switched off because otherwise you're going to bake your donuts. So the oven's off, but you have this boiling water underneath your donuts. That's going to create humidity, which is going to stop them skinning up and shorten your proving time. So these have taken about an hour to prove, but during that hour I've changed this water 3 times. So I put it in straight out of the kettle, put it in underneath, let it prove, and then once I think the water's starting to get cold, I take it out, put fresh boiling water in it, and put it back under. So I've done that 3 times in an hour. And this has made the donuts still just a touch sticky on top, which is what you want. You don't want them to get dry and crusty on top, because then that's going to affect the way they fry and the overall softness. So this is perfect. What you want is, they're about double in size, but when you touch them, you can feel them that they're just starting to feel a little bit delicate. Like if you push them and they still feel really strong and they're bouncing back, they're not ready. So I can feel that it's just starting to feel a little bit fragile. So for me, that's ready. So take your deep fryer, kids. If you're doing this at home, this is a must. You must have a parent with you. You're dealing with hot oil, it's very dangerous. If you don't have a deep fryer, you can just use a saucepan on the stove, fill it up with water, and then get it hot. A little tip to find out if your oil is hot: take a wooden spoon and dip the end of your wooden spoon into the oil. Now what you should see is bubbles around the end of your wooden spoon, like so. See how that's bubbling around it? The reason it's doing that is because you make sure you got a wooden one, not a plastic one, obviously. Inside the wood, there's still moisture. So that moisture is making it bubble. So that's a good sign that your oil's ready. Also, you can't have your oil too hot. If you got your oil too hot, your donuts are going to take colour really quickly and the middle's going to be still raw. So I recommend, if you've got a fryer, you want to run it at about 170, between 160 and 170 degrees. So I've got this nice little fryer here because my kids thought that I was too skinny, so they bought me a deep fryer for Father's Day. So we've got our floured tray here. Take your trusty spatula here, get that water out of the way. Now we want to go under them and try not to knock any of the gas out of the donuts. So we're just going to gently go underneath, pick them up, and then just gently plonk them in the oil. And this is what you want. They should float, obviously, because they've got yeast in them. So there we go, nice, lots of bubbles around it. I take a chopstick here, and if you see any little bubbles pop around, see how this is starting to bubble on the side? Just pop that, just so you don't get any nasty bubbles. I mean, they're homemade donuts, so we're not overly concerned about the appearance of them. But anyway, so we'll let that fry up a bit, and then with your little chopstick, you can just keep having a little peek underneath just to see the colour you want. So I've done a little test donut over here. This is for Lily because she wanted a little donut. This is the sort of colour I'm after. And as you can see, after the oil, we put them straight into a pan here that's lined with paper towel. This is going to soak up any of the excess oil so it's not so greasy before we chuck it into the sugar. So I'm going to fry up one here. Again, you just lift it up, just check your colour. See, it's still a little bit light underneath there. Just let him go. See that bubble? We'll just pop in. And just let it chill out there till you get the colour you're after. And then I just use this to flip it over and then repeat the process on the other side. So then after that, we're going to go over to our draining tray. Let the oil drain for a little bit. You want to coat these while they're still hot because the sugar's going to stick better. So after we get to that stage, we're going to transfer our donut over into our sugar. Give it a bit of a shake. This is just straight caster sugar. Shake again. And that's it. And then we put him onto our plate. We're not going to fill it yet because it's still hot. So we're going to let them cool down now and then I'll go through the filling process. Well, let's go back to our fryer here. We've got our first one in there. That's starting to look good colour. So I'm just going to flip him over. That's the colour I'm after. And then we're going to repeat the process on the other side. So I'll fry these off, one after the other. It's only a little fry, so I'm only going to fit one at a time. I'll get them into the draining tray, drain off that excess oil, and then we'll coat them with the sugar, get them on the plate, and then once they've cooled, I'll go through the filling process with you. All right, we'll see you soon. Welcome back. My wife just pointed out one of my mistakes earlier, as all good wives tend to do. When I said put the pot on the stove, if you haven't got a fryer, I said boiling water. Obviously I meant oil, but anyway, thanks for picking that up. Alright, so we've got a few fried off now. We've done them in the sugar. We've let these cool a little bit. Don't try and fill them while they're hot because, well, you're going to probably burn your hands and your filling is going to go everywhere. So we take our donut like so. I've just got my chopstick. Just poke a little hole in there like that. And we'll repeat that process with the rest of them. Just a little nice little neat hole. You can sort of wiggle it around a bit just to give a bit more space in there. Make sure your hands are clean, of course. Alright, I've got my 2 little piping bags here. You can buy these from the supermarket. The Nutella, obviously, when you get it out of the thing, it's pretty hard, so I've just nuked it in the microwave for about 30 seconds, or probably less actually, probably 15 seconds, and then filled up my pipe bag. You don't need a nozzle or anything, so you just take your donut like so, grab your piping bag, push it right in, and then as you squeeze, just pull your piping bag out at the same time. Obviously, it's personal preference how much filling you like in there. So find our hole, stick it in, and fill him up. Then we'll go, again, choose your favourite filling. You can put custard or whatever you like. I hate Nutella, to be perfectly honest, so I'm going to take one with some jam. So you fill your bag first before you cut your end. Just cut your end off about the size you like. And then you just twist the top a bit. Put your nozzle inside, squeeze, and there we have it. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Any questions you have, just leave them on the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll just flip this one here. We're still frying away here. I can only do one at a time, so it's pretty slow going. Just a little note. Leave your donuts in your oven, the ones that you haven't fried yet, because that'll stop them getting a skin on top. So that way you've still got that humidity in there. They'll still stay that little bit sticky on top, and they're not going to skin up. See one here I've had sitting here for a little while. It's starting to get a bit of a skin, so they're not going to fry as nice. You can just feel it's starting to feel a bit leathery. So the ones I've left in there will be a little bit nicer. But yep, that's all there is to it. Yeah, just a nice little treat to try and shake the blues of lockdown. yeah, as I said, any questions, just leave them in the comments, but have a go at it. It's pretty easy. Enjoy.